Hello, and welcome to my latest blog entry, entitled Current Landscape for Automation with Storm Management. My name is Eric Charette. I'm an Executive Technical Director for Utilities with Hexagon Safety and Infrastructure. I'm a licensed electrical engineer with 20 years of utility distribution operations experience. For this entry, I decided to take a slightly different approach than just my normal 800-word written essay, and will be delivering the content verbally with some visuals to accompany my points. As always, I try to avoid the commercial aspect to make this as educational as possible. Back in early July, I wrote an editorial about storm preparation that was shared on Energy Central, as well as the Hexagon Safety and Infrastructure Utilities blog, and on my social media account at Eric Charette PE. I made the point that in my travels across North America and meeting with hundreds of utilities, that it's clear that everyone believes that storm preparation and conducting damage assessment is vital to fast response and good customer service. But at the same time, not all utilities have funding or corporate support to have automated tools in place to conduct proper damage assessment. So as we look forward to the Edison Electric Institute Fall 2017 Transmission, Distribution, Metering, and Mutual Assistance Conference next month in Houston, I thought I would shed some light on the research that we've conducted over the past few years about the adoption rate of technology for storm management with utilities. I will also comment on where the market vendors are with this technology and provide a template for what utilities should be looking for in a damage assessment solution. In the wake of storm restoration for Hurricane Harvey in the Houston area, and now for Hurricane Irma across the Caribbean and into Florida and Georgia, the topic of damage assessment is very relevant. After an active spring of storms, the trend has continued with devastating weather patterns that have wreaked havoc on utility grids across North America. As of late in the day on September 12th, more than 5.5 million customers still remained without power across Florida, Alabama, Georgia, and now into South Carolina. At the peak, more than 8 million customers were without power. Reports now indicate that nearly 60,000 workers from 250 investor-owned utilities are focused on restoration. Just yesterday, EEI President Tom Kuhn reported that initial damage assessments were now being completed. He also noted that this was the industry's largest response to the most complex power restoration effort in U.S. history. I wonder how many of these utilities are using a fully automated and integrated damage assessment tool. Could leveraging more technology make things slightly less complex in the restoration efforts? So let's take a look at where these and other utilities in the U.S. are with adoption of damage assessment technology to help them combat these natural disasters. 10 or more years ago, legacy processes dominated damage assessment. This meant manually intensive paper-based collection using outdated printed map books. There was little real-time feedback to the storm supervisor during the assessment process. It was commonplace for assessment to be conducted and never used to benefit the overall restoration plan. But now in 2017, we see that fewer and fewer utilities are operating on paper for damage assessment. In fact, most utilities today are now leveraging some automation for the assessment process. As the curve shows, most utilities are somewhere between using some type of electronic form for collection or collection forms associated with the event in outage management. But anything short of a complete solution with integration to OMS results in either the information being manually entered into outage management or that the data never gets to the people who really need it. But where is the technology in this landscape? If most of the utilities are using some form of automation, are there enough qualified vendors out there providing either COTS solutions or, for that matter, the holy grail of damage assessment, which is a COTS solution that is fully integrated to OMS. The curve here is showing the number of vendors at each level. There are a lot of generic collection apps on the market that are not utility specific whatsoever, but there are far fewer OMS systems that offer collection forms, and just a handful of standalone market leaders who offer a utility solution for damage assessment, and only 2 that I can think of that have a fully integrated damage assessment solution into outage management, one of which is Hexagon. Our goal at Hexagon Safety and Infrastructure is to help shift this curve and enable more utilities to take advantage of automation for damage assessment. We know that not all utilities can justify an assessment solution, but we're trying to do our best to make that technology affordable and easy to implement. Here's a high-level view of the vendor space for damage assessment. This is based on research, talking with other industry experts, and meeting with utilities over the last several years. I've categorized the vendors into market leaders, competitors, and niche players. They're listed in no particular order beyond these categories. I would leave it up to each utility to perform their own research, but it is important for you to know what you should be looking for with a damage assessment solution. So let's go there next. First of all, a utility should seek a utility-specific application. It seems to make sense. This means that a solution should be focused on the damage that may occur to the power and communications infrastructure. Utilities should be seeking a solution that automates all aspects of the damage assessment process, not just the collection. This means that it should cover the entire workflow, from the storm managers in the war room, to the trained damage assessors in the field, to the dispatchers in OMS who rely on this information. Damage assessment is so much more than just basic collection forms within an OMS mobile client. And each utility, of course, has a different mixture of vendors for OMS and GIS. So the solution should leverage industry standards to integrate with those back office systems. The solution should focus on comprehensive collection, which is by far the most in-depth method and something that is being used or should be used today in the assessment in the aftermath of Hurricane Irma. The results of each assessment should be relayed in real time to the storm dashboard to enable faster decision support in the war rooms. These solutions should be scalable to allow the projected number of users depending on the size of the utility and the magnitude of the storms. And as mentioned previously, unless the results of damage assessment are fully integrated into OMS, it carries little more value than the archaic paper-based collection methods from the 20th century. Lastly, let's close with how a utility can justify the expenditure of a damage assessment solution by focusing on the benefits that we have listed here. Automating the process of damage assessment provides a clearer picture of the damage to help prioritize restoration and restoration areas. Automating damage assessment enables that real-time feedback we discussed on physical damage from assessors. This helps dispatchers stay better informed on the extent of the damage so that they can prioritize the dispatch of events to restoration crews. This automation enables storm managers to track progress made in assessment areas and expedites the material handling process. It also should leverage widely used smart devices for collections, such as tablets and smartphones. And all of this really leads to more accurate restoration times and better customer service. Some of the initial research shows that typical cost savings by automating damage assessment can result in anywhere between 12 and 20% cost savings. a reduction in outage duration by 18 to 30%, and a reduction in outage minutes by 10 to 20%. Solutions have a return on investment, typically after 3 to 4 medium-sized storms in our research, or after 1 to 2 large-sized storms. The initial reports are that Hurricane Irma may carry a cost of $500 million to Florida Power and Light alone, not to mention the other utilities in the path of the storm. Even if the conservative projections above are high and the cost savings are as low as 1 to 2%, that is still a cost savings of $5 to $10 million. That covers the cost of investment on a damage assessment solution 20 to 40 times over. That concludes my thoughts on the current landscape for automation with storm management. You can follow me on Twitter at Eric Charette PE, or you can join me in Houston for the EEI conference in October. Thank you, and please be safe if you're part of the Hurricane Harvey or Irma restoration teams.